What is up, guys? Welcome back to Shamin Reacts. I hope you're all having a great evening. Evening for people if you are in the UK. If you're on the States, you're going to have a nice afternoon. So, thanks for joining the channel. My special guest today is Jordan Blair, Mangold Brown. What an amazing name, by the way. Just got to put that out there. Who is an actress and a casting director, has been involved in projects such as The Right Stuff, The Resident, and is. We were just talking about like what it was like being an actress and also just being a casting director. It must be such a interesting way of or interesting style of life. So Jordan, tell me, how did your passion start for being an actor?
Um, Being an actor, I've been an actor since I was a little kid. I used to literally dress up my younger brother in like tutus and blouses and vests and put on plays like in our mom's living room. And I think it like eventually turned into like doing community theater. I'm from like a 10 stoplight town, where everybody knows everybody. And the theater was like outdoor, and I got paid like a small stipend. Probably it was like $10. I don't even remember how much it was. But I remember like we had nights where like there were frogs and stuff just like jumping on our stage while we're trying to perform, and like the wind blowing props and stuff over. That's where it started at for sure, and then just kind of grew from there. I feel like my parents probably thought, oh, it's just like a kid thing, and then I was like, aha, parents.
That's where you're wrong.
You're wrong. Yeah. So it just kind of grew from there, and love of storytelling, which is a really big thing in Kentucky where I'm from. And then eventually transitioned from like theater to film, trying to figure out that world.
For sure. Like must have been a really big transition from going from that to the big industry that the film industry is. And of course theater productions, they're obviously very well known around the world. I mean, the UK absolutely love their plays, and it's actually been a while since I've seen one, but I just remember the school trips, all that kind of thing. And yeah, it must have been. Did you find that like jump quite like scary, or did you feel like that's just progression in life?
Oh, I feel like it was scary, but also it was just like, I guess I have to go for it and try to figure it out, kind of like jumping in the deep end and then trying to find like a floaty device to help you out, like after you jumped in. But yeah, definitely terrifying. Definitely, you did a lot of like stuff when you're first starting out of people saying like, oh, it's gonna take this, and I know it's gonna take that, and it's like, is it really? And then you're like, oh yeah, you're right, but you still go for it because you love it, and when you get that chance to audition or you get that chance to play with stuff, to do research and create and be in that like community of other creatives, which is one of the beautiful parts about acting in general, both theater and film, is like creating like with other people. Yeah, it's nice. Versus like, when you're in school and you get assigned like a group project and you're like the person who does everything, not like.
I still remember those like silly little projects doing in school when you had to like make your own story, all this. I actually did enjoy drama and like doing that kind of thing. Wasn't a passion of mine, but maybe, like never know what you can get with anything really, that age, like especially if you're not sure what you want to do. And I remember just being so fixed on like the idea of sports and like media, that kind of thing. But yeah, I do miss doing the odd play in school. Just when you had to perform in front of people and like the students, you're just like, oh my god, I hope I don't embarrass myself.
Oh no, you're not gonna embarrass yourself.
Yeah, the funny thing is, like once I got into it, I felt okay, but it was like I felt like I didn't put that like pressure on me. I don't think anyone in my class was trying to be like an actor or actress. It was just again, it was just that that time in school, you're just kind of figuring yourself out. And I mean, you still are even after school, but hey, yeah, just drama is a very this kind of theater production, acting, it's really fun. And I mean, obviously, then taking it to the next level is where you got to obviously be a bit more legitimate with it. Did you see any differences with being in a theater production and then kind of just going into like a film or TV show? I mean, obviously productions are different, but did it really feel different when you felt like when you were acting?
It's just a lot more like here with this person versus making sure that grandma can hear you in the back row, you know? You know, it's still the same like creation of character and building an ensemble, you know, and listening to each other and stuff like that. Is just more kind of concentrated. And then, you know, understanding how film works, and when they say they're gonna, you know, move from different lenses, and understanding what that means for your framing and how much space you have and stuff like that.
Right.
Um, also, but yeah, very, very similar. You don't really get that, like, you know, obviously you don't get that energy from the audience that you get, you know, in theater, but it's still just as like beautiful and expressive, right? Especially like you were saying in school. Like, it might not be something they wanted to pursue career wise, but it's like a way to learn about yourself and express yourself and figure out who you are.
Right.
And you can always go back to it, is like the beautiful thing. It's not like, oh, I'm like 22 and I have to stop. It's never gonna happen, you know. Like, it's something you can always do. And if you don't even want to do it professionally, like, you can do theater in your community. You know, just as
Yeah, I like what you were saying there about acting. Like, you don't, the beauty with this industry and just the profession is that, you know, a lot of people have started at all kinds of ages, like at a young age, or, you know, there's been some amazing like actors and actresses that have done it at like a really old age. And yeah, people start all types of ages. And like, that's the thing, like you said, you can kind of just pick it up and go. And yeah, if you can start those small plays, start getting that experience. And yeah, like you said, even an extra, I mean, uh I think just being a part of that world is exciting. And even if you're just in there to kind of have that element of being a part of something that's bigger than, you know, than what you're expecting, must always be a really fulfilling kind of feeling.
yeah.
And obviously when you're acting, it's even more, because you're bringing, like you said, like you know, the storytelling, you're bringing something to a production which is really extraordinary. And everyone has their own way of expressing themselves. And even if it is in the sense of acting,
Right.
like there's so many different styles. Like, we could have two different types of styles of acting, and that, even though it's the same thing, and I like that, it's so much variety. um when it comes to acting, like, did you know like the style that you wanted to kind of, you know, have success with, or were you like kind of trying to figure that out as you, like, you know,
Oh,
from like a young age?
no, definitely didn't figure that out as a young age. It was just kind of like, this is fun and this is fun and
Yeah.
what's this, you know? Um, you know, I never really understood kind of like what my technique was either until I got into like a Meisner class, and I was like, oh, this is sort of what I've always been doing, just never knew that I was doing it. And now this is like a more like refined way to approach. Um, but yeah, for a long time I've been trying to tell people that like I'm funny, you know. But then
You got
like,
that energy, I love it.
yeah, yeah. I was like, I'm funny, cast me as funny. And but it was just literally just like, oh, she's the girl who can cry, so it's just like crying and dying, like all this stuff, and I was like, that's fun too. Like, I love also expressing that. But then finally, like on the right stuff, you know, people were like, oh, you're pretty funny, and I was like, thanks.
That's a relief.
You know? So there's so much joy in like both like comedic and more serious dramatic roles, which is also one of like the beautiful things about like storytelling, is you're always like learning. Like, I've got to do this audition where I need to learn how to like properly use an inhaler, and what does that look like, and how does that help people? You know, like all this stuff, you know. Or what is this community like that I need to audition for this role, who's like from this community. I don't know, it's just beautiful, like always learning. Like, I feel like I remember in high school at one point, my mom, when it was like the conversations of like what you want to do with your life, my
Yeah.
mom, what would you be happy like doing every day of your life? um and my response was, if I could like make a living of staying in school and just always learning, like that's what I would do. But I've also found that that's the case, like in this industry, you know, and storytelling and theater and film, is like you're literally always learning something new, which is really cool.
Right.
Yeah.
I as a creative myself, not like being an actor or anything, but like just generally that idea of creativity has always been there. And I think that's just something I love about this industry is like there's a bunch of creative people and there's all types of roles, more than just acting. And as we will get onto, just even being a casting director,
Mhm.
you've got to be like I mean, you even have to have creativity in that to understand what you want, right?
Yeah.
Like, you got, if there's a specific role, you obviously have like the agenda of what you want and the way you want that to be portrayed by that person.
Mhm.
So when it came to casting directing, when did you kind of get into that and sort of balance that with acting?
Um, when I was trying to figure out film, I was doing a bunch of like shorts and indies and things like that to like build and understand, and make those connections and have
Hmm.
that community. Which is especially, in the age of technology with less and less like community building, like that's, even more fun. But
Yeah.
it kind of turned around into like uh they didn't know how to find actors. So at first it was like me casting around me. I was like, let me take this stress off of you. I'll bring you people and you decide who you like. And then it kind of turned into like, Jordan, there's not a part for you, but will you cast it? And I was like, yes. And then it kind of turned into like, what if we give you some money? I was like, yes. um, and then just kind of snowballed from there. And the beauty of like getting to cast, especially for independents and helping them create the vision that they're trying to, and finding roles like for actors that maybe they've only had a bunch of like day player kind of things, but then giving them that chance to kind of have a supporting media role, and helping them to experience that so that they can add that to their reel, and they can then have that so when they're auditioning for something bigger they know what that felt like already, and stuff like that. um, we're just helping independent writer directors like do their first project and like showcase what they've been working for years on. um it's pretty cool.
So would you say being a actress is more difficult than being a casting director, or do you think it's kind of like, yeah,
Yeah, difficult. Probably. um I remember, I think it was like 2018 or something. It was like Forbes magazine was like, acting is like the number one most like stressful job in the world, and I was like, thank you.
yeah, thanks.
Thank you, shout out. But casting can get really difficult in the areas of like having like so many great options that you can't send all of those options on, and you have to like take people out or whittle it down, or
Right.
um trying to make sure that the ensemble is the strongest that it can be. I think the most stressful thing is like stressful like timelines or something like that, and organizing that into day-to-day life. But usually it's actually just like a lot of fun and a lot of great auditions and a lot of questionable auditions, just people that just need to keep learning. I feel like I was probably that person at one point too, so don't be too hard on them.
Yeah.
Jumping in the deep end with no floaty devices. Uh, but yeah, so I think I don't know, it's interesting. So I just finished working with two production companies here in town, and we shot two independent feature films in 22 days. That was
Wow.
kind of crazy. But one of them, it was like trying to cast this lead actor, and the character is not superbly likable as the way it's written, and so there were a lot of auditions that I was just like, oh, if I don't want to, this guy's like so mean that if I don't want to watch all of his audition, how am I going to want to watch an entire storyline about him?
Hmm.
Then it just kind of turned into, there's this one guy, and I was like, wait a minute, like he's not that likable, but I want to know why, and I want to know where he goes with it next. So sometimes it's like finding like that gem, or having somebody audition for something that's like not the way it's written, but then kind of just throwing a curveball to see how that would be. Is always like really fun too. And sometimes it doesn't work out, and sometimes it like works out better than you thought it would be, just because of what that actor may bring to your script that you weren't thinking, which is pretty cool to watch too.
Sure. So you got to work in some big MCU productions. I know you were saying you were like an extras casting assistant. So excuse me. So you worked on the Winter Soldier. Then you worked on, or prior to that, you worked on the Avengers. So what was your kind of like job within those kind of films?
For those two, I was an assistant to the extras casting coordinator, who was like phenomenal and like so amazing to learn from. But my job in that was just kind of like answering phone calls, helping actors who were lost, didn't know what they needed to do, like organizing people into groups. So when they said, "Hey, we need the many kids or this many this," we could find them easier, make phone calls, see if they were available. Which was a lot of like that. It was just a lot of like organizing and trying to help create the atmosphere from what production said to us, like they wanted and needed.
Right. So you must have met the main casting director, right? So I think his name's Sarah Haley Finn. I might have got that wrong.
Oh,
But
yeah, no, I just worked with the like extras casting coordinator. I don't think
okay.
the main casting director was on set. I think they were like still out in LA.
Right. Is there anyone you kind of look up to that's a casting director? Like, I know you said you learned a lot with the person that you work with, but yeah, anyone in particular you're just like, yeah, like they're just how do they do it? It's just amazing.
Oh, so many casting directors, especially here in the Southeast. There's so many casting directors that are like just super champions for actors.
Right.
And like the way in which they just really, really like care about actors and want them to do well. And in like callback settings, either virtual or in person, and like just the nice warm energy when you go in versus like going into a room that is like kind of like sucks all the energy out.
Yeah.
That's not a very fun place for creative expression. But there's multiple casting directors here in town that I've been in the room with as an actor, where I've gone like, yes, this is like wonderful. Like this is the kind of person like maybe one day like I could be like would be awesome.
For sure. So what in terms of acting though, like well who do you like kind of look up to?
Oh man.
Is that a big one?
So many. How do you
Yeah, I bet.
your favorite movie? What mood am I in? And like, how am I
feeling? I was gonna actually ask you that later, but that's gonna be about like what's your favorite genre. But like, yeah, I mean, yeah, so like even if it's not like strictly I mean, there's obviously a bunch of actors to choose from, but like anyone you love the way they kind of you can see similarities in their style and the way maybe you kind of have that approach and you're like, yeah, that's something I would love to continue.
Yeah, oh man. So many. I mean, like, yeah, styles, you were saying styles, like usually generally I'm drawn to like sci-fi fantasy kind of, era of like myself, like what I like to watch, and then action after that. I would love to be in something that like Eric Kripke does, like, like Supernatural or The Boys or something like that. Like,
yeah,
that'd be dope. That'd be really cool.
yeah.
But I love like a lot of his work. I feel like it would be fun to do one really, really bad sci-fi original, like Zombievers or something like not Zombievers, but like one of those. Or like if they made like an Ever After remake, like Drew Barrymore and Ever After, like that would be really fun. Do have like a period piece like that.
Right.
Yeah.
Sci-fi is quite like interesting because there's even though like it's obviously one genre, I've seen so many different styles of sci-fi. Like you can kind of class Marvel sci-fi like with the Guardians and obviously you have like your classic sci-fi like Star Wars and then there's like Star Trek. I don't really like Star Trek, but I mean I got a friend who's like die hard and like there's that debate Star Wars versus Star Trek and I'm just like I mean, I'm a Star Wars fan too, but I'm just more into Marvel, so that doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah, I'm definitely like I love Star Trek and Star Wars and Stargate and like all of the stars. Like I'm very excited for like the new Dune. Like
Oh yes,
yeah,
that's star-studded as well. I mean, when I watched the trailer, I was just like, they're in it, they're in it, they're. It's like it just kept going,
yeah.
and I know it was based on a book or a novel. My friend was saying like so many people might not even realize that.
Yeah.
But I mean, it was a popular novel, so I'm guessing there's a lot of people that do. But yeah, I mean that was quite cool. I've never actually read the book, but when I saw the trailer, it got me intrigued. Maybe I need to check this out. Like, it's
Yeah.
quite different from the usual sci-fi. So, do you if you could play a character in a sci-fi universe, who would you like to play?
Oh man.
That's the curveball I was telling you about.
So many universes.
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
So let's say, for example, it could be like Blair and like Star Wars or.
I would like. Oh man.
Pressure's on.
I would like to be. I would like to, when I get very, very old, be the female version of Walter from the TV show Fringe.
Okay,
Yeah, as
that's a cool one.
I love that show, and John Noble's phenomenal, amazing actor, like so good. I just really loved like his character in that, and I think it would be fun to play with something like that one day.
For sure.
Yeah.
So with all the genres of like that you could possibly name in acting, like do you feel more drawn to a specific genre in the way you are as a person and also expressing yourself? Because like I can understand there's the ideals of challenging yourself and like seeing what you can do as an actor, then kind of going in like a familiar territory, but then thrive with that because you absolutely are passionate about it. So like how do you kind of, when you're obviously auditioning, do you kind of think about that in mind, like with balancing, yeah, like a challenge, but then something you like at the same time that's kind of like, you know, retrospective of like your past experience?
Yeah, I think usually it's just like when you're doing that research and stuff, you just find that part of like who you are as a human that relates to the part of this human character, you know, because we all have um different like parts of us, you know, we're not always just always happy or always just like always angry. You know, so it's about adding that into it and doing that research. Or I forgot what the actor's name is, but he like said at one point that like when he was playing like Hitler, like he had to look at a photo of like Hitler like playing with his nieces to like find some like humanity like before, you know, acting as him, because you know, you can't like fully judge that character. You won't be able to like live truthfully in it, you know. But I feel like the thing that would be fun would be like the being like this surprising badass. Can I say badass on the term?
Yes, of course. It's not that's not a curse word, is it? You like say has to say badass. No, that's what's wrong with that? Oh, that's hilarious.
But
Yeah.
yeah, because I have like history like growing up in Kentucky with like archery and riflery, and I have a motorcycles license and like
Wow.
stage combat and all that stuff. So, but you know, but that's not like usually what I, you know, would book.
You got that in the bag though, just in case.
Yeah, like one day someone's gonna be like, let's make her the like surprising badass that's the twist in the story would be.
So it almost sounds like a stunt woman. Like you could just like be like, get on the bike. They're like, Jordan, we didn't know you could do that. Bit of fighting as well. Whoa.
Maybe not full on stunts because I like carbs a little bit too much for that. But yeah, but that would be super fun to like do something like that one day and pull out that side of you, bringing like different parts of your human experience to life, especially in theater where they always say it's putting a mirror to reality, and people be like, oh, actors are really good liars, and like no, actors are like really good truth tellers.
Right. And like the skill to be able to, go from like even like reading a book to bringing something, you're bringing it to life essentially. Like you're creating emotion, you're creating story, you're expressing that story, and it's the little things, it's the expressions, the body language, the lines, of course, the dialogue, the tone, every little thing in the play is like, even like you said on screen in the film, it's like you notice it, and that's why actors have got where they are, and that's why they get that status. Just for example, it's like Emily Van Camp, who I know you worked with on Resident, I believe, and I mean, she's a badass with being Sharon Carter in the MCU. Obviously, it's great to see her in Falcon and Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
So what was it like meeting her and like just working with her in the show?
Show like amazing. I think all of the network shows I've been on been like, especially like the Resident and the Right Stuff, like so welcoming. Like especially if you're just going there for a day or a couple of days, and you're like jumping into this middle of this family that's already created, to be like not going in like worried like, oh, I need to hide in the corner, don't talk to anybody, but like them being so open and welcoming and talking to you. And John Noble was in that scene too, and he was phenomenal to just watching him and Emily and Miles in that scene, just even when I wasn't on screen because they were facing like their direction or whatever. Just watching them like work was so educational.
Right.
And the fact that they were so welcoming and warm and kind and just like, hey, like they're awesome humans too, like makes it even better to like go into that kind of atmosphere. Especially when you may be starting out and you may be worried about what it's going to be like. Yeah, she was
For sure.
so great. So great.
Yeah, that must have been really cool because like when you meet actors and actresses and just anyone in that industry, especially when they've become very successful, you might be like a little bit not intimidated, but you might just be a little bit shy maybe to approach. Or when you find out you're working with them, you're like, oh, we're doing that. Oh, damn! Like it's got to be quite it's got to be quite like, I wouldn't say scary, more just like the surprise and the shock, right? Is there anyone that you've like maybe when you were starting off that you like really like watched growing up, looked up to, and then like realize you're working with them? Have you had any of that sort of like experience whilst you've been an actress?
I think that the most towards that would be working with John Noble on The Resident, because he was in Fringe and loved him from that. But all of the actors like in just like this, especially like the star-studded cast that was on The Resident, on the Right Stuff as well as The Resident. But then you just get there and they're just human beings too, doing what you do, so it kind of like takes away that like nervousness just to be like, oh, hey, it's not,
Yeah. Did you like ask John or Emily like any like advice on like what you're doing, and just like kind of giving you sort of like an insight that you found really helpful?
I don't think I asked them any advice, just because the workflow was just like here, shoot
Oh,
this,
right. Yeah.
very much like in the scene on the day. I did meet when I was first kind of transitioning into film, I did meet Lance Henriksen at a film festival, which was like,
Wow.
I was like, wow, what's that? It's like, can you sign your book for me? And he did give us a lot of really great advice about starting out and, you know, building a resume and like all of that stuff, which was really great. And it would be amazing to work with him one day. I think that would be like super fun.
For sure, yeah. I'm sure it will definitely happen.
Yeah,
It'll just be like it'll probably be the time you're just not expecting it.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
because
I
you in
did,
this industry, you must like bump into all kinds of people. And like, oh, I know them. Yeah, you like, and then being a casting director, you might be looking for some of these people as well, and
mhm.
that might be quite a fun
Yeah.
experience as well.
I did remember I ran into Manish from The Resident at a gym one time, and I was like just talking, and I was like, I would love to be on the show. Like, I love the way it's written and the topics. And as we left the gym, he was like, "Cool, I'll see you on, you know, soon." And I was like, "Sure." And I was like, "That's me, you know, like how am I gonna book that?" And then like literally within, you know, a year or something, I did book it, and I was just like, "Man, I wish he had been on set that day, so I could have been like, remember that time? Remember that time?" You know, put it in the universe, and it happened, kind of thing.
Right. So funny you said about the universe. So like with being an actor, you know, like we are saying earlier on, it's very competitive and it can get really. I'm guessing like I mean, I imagine it can be quite endearing at times when like you know roles aren't coming your way or you know you're really trying to bust your ass for that one that you really want. Um, how do you kind of stay motivated and in that kind of zone so you don't lose your groove?
Just like taking care of yourself and having a good community around you with, you know, um, your friends, colleagues, teachers, mentors, and then always having something outside of the industry that you love to do, you know, um, and or finding other ways to be creative and, you know, creating one act plays at your local theater with friends or whatever that might be, just to help like your health in general, you know, mental, emotional, physical, all everything, because it can be, you know, because it is a marathon race, you know, um, and making sure that you take care of yourself and knowing that sometimes it has nothing to do with you as an actor or as a human being why you do or don't get a role, um, especially since you may never know the reason why.
Right.
um, so just knowing that, like, you know, you said sports earlier, right? You leave it all out on the field, right? Same thing with acting, just knowing that you've done all of your research and prep and like character building and all of that, and then just leaving it all out in the audition. Um, and then just knowing that that's you did your best work in that moment, and being a little nicer to yourself. I'm always telling actors, like, be a little nicer to yourself, you know,
Yeah.
like you did what you needed to do, and you showcase that, and you should be, you know, happy that you put that forth and you gave it that try. um yeah.
Right. It must be quite a uh yeah, like you know, being motivated yourself to be an actor
Yeah.
and then having that like that same sort of you're approaching an actor when they're coming for a role as your casting director and like
Mhm.
just telling them the kind of like reiterating like what you've kind of been doing yourself must feel like kind of like a it's kind of like a nurturing thing to it, kind of like
Yeah.
looking out for them
Yeah.
in a
Yeah.
sense because
Yeah.
it's like you're kind of using your experiences and you're applying it immediately when you're
Yeah.
doing that.
I can definitely see the older sister in me coming out in that and that like mama like taking care of my actors, you know, like, you know, you got this, you know, you're like reading in the background. You're trying to make sure they can't see you, but you're like, yeah, you're doing great, keep going, you know.
Yeah, just like we were saying earlier on, like you're the way you're like you know always pushing Okea to do what
Hmm.
he's been doing. Obviously, like him being in Cobra Kai, Walking Dead, reading great, and like you said, it's really important to be around that kind of and that kind of environment, like just generally that energy, like being having like good spirit and being a motivator. Like, do you find that really important in your line of work in both roles, like being a casting director and an actress, like you need to constantly kind of exert this energy to the people you're around?
I think so, yeah. You know, just being like truthfully like who you are and just being always like, you know, open and vulnerable, because it is such an ensemble, not just with actors but with production, like an ensemble unit of trying to tell this story. So yeah, plus it's such a stressful industry. Like if you don't love doing it, like go find something you do love, you know, because you never know what's gonna happen. You know, you're always being prepared for something that may never happen, you know. um so yeah, I think yeah, once you get past that, like, what does the casting director want? Like, how do I be different? You know, and you just realize that like you are a different human being, and you know, you do your work and you give the best that you can with it and see what happens. Um, and just being like true to yourself and to everyone else, I think is like very key in this industry.
For sure. So like when you're not acting or like casting for a show or a project that you're
Yeah.
working on, like what do you like to do in your free time, or what do you like to do like that's kind of like, yeah, like stress free?
Free time. I tried to look up that word in the
If you
dictionary
do
the other
get
day,
any.
and it had been ripped out. No. I love spending time with my family and like going home and seeing them, which was really really wonderful to actually do during quarantining. Um, I love like spending time with my friends, like going out and walks and hikes and stuff like that. But also just love a good day of just like chilling with like the window open and like the spring breeze blowing in, just like watching movies and relaxing at home, you know.
Right.
Watching YouTube videos, trying to slightly also like listening for like maybe new story ideas and things like that.
Right.
You know,
Like,
just recharging, you know, sometimes takes a good recharge.
yeah.
Just got a bicycle at a Goodwill. I'm excited to go like biking around.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? It's funny you say that because literally the other day I was saying this to a friend, like I kind of miss just having my bike and just going out for a ride, especially when the weather's like all nice in the UK.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy because like it can all of a sudden change, but when it's sunny, it's like, yep, we have to go do this, go do that, go enjoy the weather, go for a walk. But like, yeah, just going for a. Do you get like? Has there been moments where you've just been out and relaxing, and you just got so inspired by like, and like you just an idea pops into your head? You're like, oh my god, this would be great as like a project or like a story.
I feel like probably, I don't know if there's been a moment that I like really, really remember it happening. But definitely like the two features that we just finished, one of them, Courtney Gets Possessed, which is like a horror comedy, kind of came about that in like a group meeting, and we were like, oh yeah, this and this and this and like that. And like, what if it was like Exorcist meets Bridesmaids, you know, like you know, so kind of more so in like a group setting with other like mind creatives. I feel like that has happened. Me by myself, I'll end up like reading a book in like Central Park in New York, and then I'll like fall asleep and I'll wake up and it's like nighttime and I'm like, oh, I gotta get out of here, you know, like like that's more likely to happen than something else. But definitely I feel like driving for some reason, like driving or in the shower or something, you like an idea will come in your head and you're like, oh, how do I, you're like calling your mom and you're like, Mom, can you write this down because I can't write because I'm driving.
I'm just imagining you like in like Central Park. You're like laying there. You're like sleeping. And oh my god! And like everyone's just looking like, is this lady all right?
That's probably accurate.
That'd be amazing. And you're just like, don't judge me. I got some really good idea. Like, you don't know what I'm about to do.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? What do you do in your free time?
Well, I'm not like I'm not on that hustle and bustle life, so I'm quite fortunate I have a bit more free time. Like, you know, I mean, I do a lot of YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
Probably as you're aware. Like to stay fit as well. That's definitely something. Mentioning sports earlier on, yeah, like just glad gyms are open again, able to get more fresh air in a sense. And yeah, just keeping fit, like, because it's funny because talking about creativity goes toe to toe with that, like, you know, being being like healthy and you know, right in the mind really goes helps with the productivity, right? So like being creative, you need that. So yeah, I really try and look after myself, especially during the pandemic.
Yeah.
You don't want to, you know, get like, you got to really look after yourself. So like you said, yeah, family time, that's something as well I've always really been taking pride in, especially during the pandemic, looking out for them. And I think that's important, you know, like you said, like during this whole thing is to this thing. Do you feel like there's something during the pandemic that you kind of started to do that you never really did before?
Um, yeah, I have like two half siblings, so I actually got to like spend a lot of time with them that I just didn't have the ability to do. And then spending time with my like full-blooded younger brother that I dressed up in tutus. So like genuinely like getting to be there for them, and you know, helping my little sister, you know, kind of get ready to learn how to drive and stuff like that. Did a lot of like at home workouts, which I wasn't really doing before, you know, and having to try to
That's good.
figure that out, you know. Luckily I have like some really great like friends that make YouTube videos like Tyler Buckingham and stuff like that, so that it helped me because I wouldn't know what I'm doing, you know. Just like running up and down the stairs.
That's actually really effective. Like,
Yeah.
as crazy as it sounds, it really is. Like, I haven't done it in a while, but because I just go for runs. But like, yeah, you're like, even in 5 minutes doing it, you're already like tired out.
Yep, yep. Oh, I
But
totally remember back in school, like on days when our like coach would be mad at us, because I play basketball, which is like a thing, you know, in Kentucky.
yes,
So
that's awesome. Oh, that I absolutely
yeah,
love
it's like
basketball. Like, that's the sport I
bourbon
love.
and
So.
basketball, right? So I remember like one day when our coach was mad at us, she like put trash cans in all four corners of the gym, and it was like our task was to like run up and down the stairs and just around the gym because we were in trouble. And if we needed to puke, we had to puke in the trash can while we were like while we were running, you know.
Wow.
So yeah, we actually made in high school, like in chemistry 2 class, we actually like made moonshine, which is
Oh, wow.
yeah,
That's
like
pretty cool.
really fun random fact. Um, yeah, yeah.
So, but did you like play basketball? Like, I mean, obviously, you didn't take. I don't think you would take it seriously considering where you are now. But like, did you like really like that sport or anything like that?
What?
Did you like really enjoy playing basketball like in
Oh,
school then? And
yeah, definitely. Just especially because it's so big in Kentucky, like, you know, Louisville and UK basketball. Um, I was like the person that because I wasn't tall, but I wasn't like quick. So I was like the person that was like if somebody needed to be guarded, like I was in charge of like guarding that person, you know, if nobody else could kind of thing. Um,
yeah,
so again, another like ensemble community kind of like work ethic. Um, Playing basketball and you know, I'll still watch basketball with my friends or my guy friends, and I'll be like the one person like yelling like aggressively loud, and all the guys are like, Jordan, calm
yeah.
down. I'm like, no, they're not like not rebounding, they're not playing together, they're just throwing the ball, you know, like like
I love that
really
you get like
aggressive.
all into like coaching mode. Like, no, they shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah,
That.
yeah.
I love that. Do you
uh,
support a team then?
just like college ball. I'm just like super into like
Oh, okay.
UK and college ball. I'll watch like I'll watch pro ball every now and then, but I'm not like super in love with like anybody currently.
Right. I mean, and like I love the March Madness every year. Like, think this
Yes.
year it's been crazy.
This year
Like,
was, oh my god. Yeah, so my birthday is like February 28th, so I'm always like the best part of my birthday is like March Madness is like the next month.
oh,
But yeah,
that's awesome.
that um that tournament this year was it was a lot. It was there were I was definitely like pacing up and down the living room. Um so especially
Yeah,
with some of those Gonzaga games. Yeah, no, it's crazy.
it was. I think it must have been one of the most historic March Madnesses I've ever watched. Like,
Mhm.
uh, big teams getting knocked out by like the
Yeah.
lower seeds. It was like, wow, wow! It happened like 4 or 5 times in a row as well.
Yep.
It's like, damn, this is amazing. That's why I love like college ball as well. I think like just seeing the prospects as well as they go into like some of them going to the NBA. Like,
Yep.
uh, it's super cool to see them before they shine in that way. You know.
Hmm.
Um, so what like position did you play when you did play in like school or
Um,
whatever?
I was definitely down on the block most of the time, unless it was like like unless they needed me to guard like a forward, that was getting
Right.
past people. So it's definitely down on the guard block for sure. Um, yeah, and then I played like all the way through up into like partway through high school, but then it got into being a lot with like AP classes and theater and dance team and like all this stuff. It was like too many activities to be able to like go to all of the rehearsals. So had to stop, but still very, like supportive of our team back home.
For sure. I would love to see a college game maybe one day. I mean, in the UK, I believe they were going to do some games like from like the NCAA and stuff, but I don't know if
Yeah.
that's still going ahead. I've seen a few NBA games over here, but like, yeah, I've got a friend who moved here, and I think he's moved back to Missouri. I think that's where he's from. But then I think he moved to Kansas, so like I know
Hmm.
they're pretty big on
Yeah.
ball there. But
Yeah.
yeah, definitely have to come to the States at some point for a basketball game.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I would suggest that you see a UK game. Not because I'm biased, but
No, definitely. If it's a good recommendation, I'll take you on it.
yeah, yeah. Um, we what else? What else? What else? What else do you like to do?
That's a good point. I mean, obviously, like, I work in the cinema, so it's quite
Hmm.
interesting. The whole pandemic, like, you know, I fortunately was able to keep my job because I know that industry is really effective.
Yeah.
Uh, and I know like it must have even affected your line of work, getting roles, and obviously for a moment of time, production was shut.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that's where you like did a lot of these hobbies and things. But did you feel like that got in the way, like when you were when it first initially happened? Because that must have been such a big bang, just like that, out of nowhere with the pandemic and just the difference in lifestyle.
Yeah, it was very crazy because we had just came back from Sundance Film Festival,
Oh,
where
nice,
our show that we worked on, our film called Beast Beast, um, which is getting ready to come out, and I think it's going to come out in the UK too, so you can watch it.
awesome.
Where it premiered, so it was like this, okay, it's done this, and it's going to go to South by, and we're like getting ready for all these things, and I was like mid casting, like halfway through, like on a feature film, um and it all just shut down, and like that film like had to completely pause and like couldn't
Hmm.
finish it, and like it was a lot of like, what is everybody gonna do, which I'm sure was the same case for a lot of, probably everybody, but probably like a lot of people, you know on the whole
Yeah.
continent, and world and atmosphere, but yeah, it was completely different because it was like we were in the thralls of it, and then it was just like you can't do anything, um which was weird and crazy. And I know there's like still movies that people have made like right before that still haven't come out, or were able to come out and were able to be visible by a lot of people because it was the only thing that was in theaters, because nothing else had come out yet.
Right. Yeah.
So, and it's still, we're back to making films, and thankfully a lot of people like got together to figure out how to do it safely. And a lot of the
Hmm.
sets that I have worked on or helped out with or stuff like that since then have been or my roommates, you know, have been like excessively safe, which has been really, really great.
So when did you get back on production for Beast Beast? Because like you said, there was like quite a big delay there, and you had to pause.
So Beast Beast was already completed, like when it
right.
screened we had its world premiere at Sundance. The film that had got cut halfway through, I think, like maybe October, November, somewhere of that of last year, when they started to like figure out how it needed to be made and testing people and masks and shields and sectioning people off into groups, you know, and stuff like that on set to limit exposure. So I think it was somewhere around last fall they were able to kind of finish their last few days that they had with everybody.
So any current upcoming projects, just before we finish off, that you want to say you're working on, or if you're allowed to?
Yeah, so definitely Beast, which has just hit theaters here in the US. And then it's coming out. There's another project called The Time Capsule that I'm very excited to see how it comes out. I don't know if I haven't heard yet if they're gonna go festival route or what's gonna happen with that one. And then the two that we just shot, Retreat and Courtney Gets Possessed, two very, very different movies. But excited to, those are both in post-production right now, excited to see how they come out and what it just looks like, you know, because you read it just like you read a book and you imagine it and you see it, and you know, excited to see how those come out for sure.
All right, awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the future projects you have, and definitely be looking at. I'll definitely be checking out Beast Beast as well, because I've had the chance, and
I think it'll
be awesome. Yeah, for sure. I'm quite open-minded with like genres. I mean, I think horror is the one that's kind of like I watch the least, but if there's good horror, I'm not going to deny it and not watch it, but for sure. But horror, Jordan, thank you for your time.
Like a daytime thing for me. Like I have to watch it in the daytime, and then maybe watch How to Train Your Dragon afterwards or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you give me a list, I'll definitely check out some other recommendations. I'm always up for new things, and sometimes you don't realize how much you like something until you watch it. Like they say, don't judge a book by its cover. So that's how I like to live. But
I like that. So that's pretty good.
I just like to not to close myself to things, you know. I'm sure you're the same. Like you want to really, you want to fully fledged things. You don't want to half-ass it, you know. But it's been a pleasure talking to you, Jordan. Thank you for coming on. Super cool to discuss your acting experience and just generally life as it is, and being a casting director. And yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to the projects you got coming on.
Yeah, it was great talking to you too. I know I've watched like so many of your videos, and I'm like, oh hey, what's up? You're here.
Oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that. So yeah, just to the people checking this out, thank you guys for watching. It's been a blast talking to Jordan, and make sure to subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we will see you next time on the channel. All right.